my students that are looking at private loans that they are just overwhelmed, and all they can think about is, you know what? I'm just going to, first of all, either take the plus loan, which I already talked about is often not competitive, or just go to their local bank and see what's available as opposed to shopping around. Or
we see a lot of students going to the big brands, the big student loan brands, and I can assure you those are not necessarily, I'm not going to say they don't have the best deals, they are not necessarily the best deals. There are a lot of credit unions and other lenders that are offering extremely good rates, and everybody should shop around, whether they use the private loan marketplace or not, which is the easiest way to do it. Everybody should carefully shop around for a private loan.
So do you get the local type credit unions to participate in your private loan marketplace? I mean, or would it be a national credit union?
Both. They're both national footprint and local footprint credit unions in the marketplace.
So how do the colleges refer the students? I mean, how do they hear? Well, I guess they hear about you through your own marketing. Then how do the students hear? How do the students learn about it?
Well, typically, private financial aid offices have a number of ways they communicate with students, but at a minimum, all of them have a financial aid page on their website, and all of those financial aid websites have a loan page, or maybe multiple pages about loans. And one of the pages is typically about private loans, and then there's a link from that page to the private loan marketplace.
So if a student, is it typically a student, or is it usually a parent who's actually applying for these private loans?
It's both. We really see both.
And so if a parent or a student says, okay, I know that I'm going to need to borrow $40,000 over the next 4 years, do they apply for that whole $40,000, or do they say I need $5,000 right now to get me through for the next 6 months? How does that process work?
Well, the way to do it is to apply for the amount you need right now, and then each year come back to the private loan marketplace and shop again to make sure that your lender that you used last year is still the one providing you the best rates. Because rates vary so much, it's really worth checking.
So do the private loans that are available have primarily variable rate loans, or are there fixed rate loans available also?
Primarily, most of the products, most of the loans in the private loan marketplace, most of the private loans, period, are variable rate. But in the last year, we have seen several lenders start to offer fixed rate loans as well.
Well, sometimes with the expectation that interest rates are going to go up, and when I'm talking to my clients who don't have a clear plan of how they're going to be paying back the money too quickly, and it's likely their student's going to take on the debt, sometimes those fixed loan can be a little bit more comforting, knowing what the maximum is that you're going to have to pay back. On the other hand, when families are thinking, hey, this is a short-term crunch, then often I do recommend the variable loans, because they kind of feel like they're going to be able to pay it back, and it's worth taking advantage of the low interest rates available. Does good credit matter?
It does matter, although I would say that the lenders in the private loan marketplace do a good job of trying to work with as many families as they can to find them a deal.
What about prepay? I mean, is it pretty clear that most of them don't have prepayment penalties, or you really do have to, once you get that quote from the marketplace, you need to kind of read to understand all the terms?
Well, you certainly do, but again, the private loan marketplace, like Travelocity, arrays those options for you in a side-by-side comparison format, so it makes it extremely easy to see what all the rates and terms are for each of the loans. Then once you do that, you can pick the one you think looks the best for you and go through that lender's application process. So you've really, in a sense, it's almost as if you've applied to 12 different lenders, except only the one who you choose knows that you were even applying, and the other 11 don't even know.
Do you see any, or is it possible with these private loans that they will defer, that you don't have to pay back until your student graduates, or is it more common like a typical consumer loan where you do start paying it back like a car loan 60 days after it's dispensed?
The private loan marketplace has several different kinds of loans. There's the one you were talking about where there's no payments until you're done with school. It's called a full deferment loan. There are some that are interest only, and there are some that will have you start paying full principal and interest while you're in school. It's really up to you. Certainly, the more you can pay while you're in school, the better off you are.
Yeah, and for all of our listeners, and we've talked a little bit about student loans before, remember, if they defer payment, it doesn't mean that your interest is not accruing along the way. In fact, it
Correct.
really is. So that's why the more you can pay along the way, the better. If student can help out, parents can help out, especially with these private loans, because typically these private loans are on top of those federal loans that even Lloyd was saying is the preferred starting place to go to take advantage of what you can in the government loans. So it can be expensive, and to my point, you just don't want to borrow more than you need. So I like the model which Lloyd recommended, which is just borrow as much as you need right now. Now, would you borrow for the whole year or just for the term? I mean, how often in a year could you reapply, or should you be looking?
You could apply twice if you wanted to, twice or three times. But typically what people will do, the peak of the private loan shopping season is in August, September, because most people are planning for the whole year. But there's no reason if you find yourself short in January or something that you can't come in and apply again. And
is there any cost to the borrower? Is there any to use the marketplace site? Neither the participating colleges nor the borrower pay anything. Now, the borrower may pay fees for the loans. I assume that's going to be disclosed. Correct. If there are any fees in any of the loans in the private loan marketplace, those would be shown for your specific situation. Those would be shown to you in the side-by-side comparison. So if we think about an example of a student getting on the site or being ready, hey, it's August, I need money in September, how am I going to apply? The process to go through it, how detailed information do they need to have available in order to, is it kind of more like you enter your Social Security number and they do a credit report and that's all that matters, or are you entering income and assets and that type of information also? Well, the private loan marketplace collects enough information so that all the lenders have enough to make a decision. And then typically the lenders will ask for more information and proof of income, that kind of thing, once you actually apply for their loan. So would you be able to, is it a 15-minute process, do you think, or do you think people might be spending an hour on the site entering all their information? I mean, that's the beauty of it. If you have basic information, I mean, it's literally name, address, where you're going to school, how much you think you need, how much your income is. You don't have to know your credit score. It takes about 5 minutes, maybe not even, to fill out that form. And within 1 minute, you'll have back comparisons from, as I said, from 12 different lenders. It would take you hours and hours and hours to get the same kind of information. So you would authorize them to pull the credit score, but you actually wouldn't have, but you wouldn't get that credit information yourself. That would just go to the bank, right? As a user. Actually, it's all done in the marketplace website, and so the lenders the marketplace website already knows all the criteria of the lenders. So the lenders that are participating don't even know you have shopped for their loan except for the one that you pick. Well, it's so a great site. Really, sorry to interrupt you. It really preserves your privacy, because even if you wanted to take the hours and hours to go shop to all of those lenders, then your name, your Social Security number, and all that is in their systems. I'm sure they guard them very carefully, but still, it's a lot more people that know all your information than is really necessary. Well, Lloyd, thanks so much for being here. Lloyd's been talking about the private loan marketplace, which is the website www.privateloanmarketplace.com. And kudos to the private loan marketplace, the FinAid award-winning site that's grown into one of the most, FinAid.org, which is the most comprehensive source for student financial aid information. I send people there all the time. They say that they believe the student loan marketplace is the closest to satisfying all of FinAid's criteria. Lloyd, thanks so much for joining us again on College Smart Radio. Thank you, Beatrice. Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. Thanks so much for joining us today. You can hear us each week at KDOW 1220 AM, Saturdays at 3 p.m. We promise to bring you up-to-date information from the front lines of helping parents deal with the most expensive years of their lives. This is Beatrice Schultz. Thanks for tuning into College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with certified financial planner Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. Join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.